Good morning. I'm Enriqueta Harriet, and I thought I would take a few moments today to familiarize you with a few of my poems from my book Island Impressions, Poems of Daily Life, that I published in May of this year, 2020, and get you familiar with some of my work. I've chosen a few of these as representatives of my writing style so that you can better understand how the book feels in tone, and then also to give you an idea of some of the accompanying artwork that goes with each poem. I've illustrated each poem with its own separate drawing so that you get a complete visual storytelling experience with each one. So all of these poems center around my memories of what it was like spending the summers on an island off the coast of Maine. The island in question is Vinyl Haven, and I used to go there as a child all the way through to my teens, spending the summers with my grandmother, who lived as a year-round resident on the island. She was a very prolific artist, watercolorist, and my family, we would go up there for the summer every year. No matter where else we lived in the world, we always seemed to come home to roost on the island every summer. So that was the one consistent place in my life that really felt like a home to me and nurtured me. And it's a place that I think of as my safe and it's a place that I hold very dearly in my heart. But anyway, so the poems center around what life experiences there are on the island in a very personal way so that the reader can get a feeling for what life is like in a remote island community. So the first poem that I'm going to read is called Graham J, and it's on page 3 and is about a woman who was very active in assisting her family with mending the lobster nets that the family used in their fishing business. So she would mend the holes in them, and I remember I met her once. She was a friend of my grandmother's, and the picture that I had of her in my mind is sitting at a chair in a window with the sun coming in from behind her, and she was, using these shuttlecocks to weave thread in and out of the nets and filling in the holes. So that's what this poem is about. She mends the nets sitting in her chair by the edge of the world, smooth stroking motions, looping the twine in and out. The twisting fibers bend to her will, thinking of nothing more than the patterned knots. She ties them into rows, patiently working her way across its face, intent on the purpose set in front of her. She doesn't realize how beautiful she has become in this one simple moment, captured in memory, one knot at a time. And then this is the picture that I drew to go along with the poem. A lot of detail there of the nets and the shuttlecocks, and sitting on top of a weathered wood table. A lot of the locals, they used to make their coffee tables and things like that out of old lobster pot traps. And so you would go into these homes and you would find You know, a lot of the furniture were made over from scraps that were no longer being used in the fishing industry. So, um, just to give you an idea of what it was like in local homes. This next one is entitled Just Another Day at the Office. And it is about one of the main industries that the islanders take part in the island, and that's the lobster fishing industry. So here we go. Just another day at the office. He sips coffee from the thermos on the dashboard in front of him, steering with one hand while sipping with the other, plunging forward into the inky darkness of the early morning, his instinct, sonar, and compass for direction. Brow furrowed, intent on getting out there because a full day's work lies ahead. The engines roar and surge as they push forward across the swells. Diesel and salt air fill his lungs. Behind him, another shadowy pair, all muscle and grit, dressed in coveralls, make last preparations to the wire cages to be set today. They stand neatly stacked 3 cages high on the stern, once baited and tied to the lead lines, lowered to the bottom depths for future bounty. And as you can guess, this is a picture of what I imagined as I was writing this. And it shows the interior of a lobster boat and a typical rigging right here of the winch that they use to help pull up the traps. And they start out very, very early in the morning. Most of the people who are in that business start before the crack of dawn, okay? And they go out and they spend the entire day out on the open ocean, and then they come back about 4, 5 o'clock and later, depending on how many traps they're pulling that day. And they stop off at the lobster pound to weigh the daily catch and to sell it. And for a lot of the islanders, that is their main source of income for the entire year, is pulling lobsters from the ocean. So just to give you an idea, there's a lot of people that are involved in that activity. The next poem is called In the Woods, and it's about a feeling that you get, or I used to get, as I was going on a hike up the mountain behind my grandmother's house, which was called Amherst Hill. So it's called In the Woods. Old soul from the hilltop, won't you come and dance with me? And tell me how it was so many years ago when you were just starting to understand that men do what men do, and that's okay. We stay on the land firmly standing on rocks of solid granite, planting flowers in the sand. Old soul from the hilltop, spread your branches down and wrap me in your gentle arms. Whisper songs from long ago, distant memories of where we have been and where we are so far. Rocks of solid granite beneath our feet, planting flowers with our hands. Old soul from the hilltop, won't you come and dance with me? And then this is the drawing that I made to go along as a companion piece to that poem. Now, Amherst Hill used to have one of the oldest quarries, granite quarries, on the island. Most of the old quarries, the rock quarries on the island, are dormant now, and they've grown over and are no longer in use and have become parkland. And many of them the pits have filled up with rainwater, and people actually swim in them. But Amherst Hill is mostly forest, And then there's a beautiful cliff where you can look out over at the village when you climb to the top. And it's a spectacular view. And it was a place that I used to go often to when I was a teenager, especially to be able to have some alone time and to think. And even today, in my mind's eye, I imagine going back up there to the hill to be able to quietly meditate and think about things that are going on in my life. And it helps center and calm me. Thinking about, the smell, the air, the pine trees, all of the things that I remember about the place. The next one is called Mementos, and it goes like this. Just inside that blue front door lies a bucket of granite rocks in the corner, each one tumbled round and smooth by the sea. Memories of 1,000 steps along the shore, catching my eye as I walk along. A stoop, a scoop, a grasp, a fumble. Into the pocket of my raincoat it tumbles, to be carried along on the way, until the jacket is hung behind the door. Pockets are emptied on the floor. Boots are kicked off behind the chair, and bare feet slide across the wooden floor. The kettle is hot, the tea is ready. With both hands cupped, I hold it steady, and sink with a grateful but tired sigh into the seat by the stove to dry. I gaze out the window while taking a sip, the taste of lemon upon my lip, watching the fog roll across the pond, while the storm clouds gather on the horizon. Tonight, I'll fall asleep in bed to the steady sound of rain above my head. And here is the picture of the rocks and the way that they look on the shore. They're very pretty, actually, looking. No two are the same. And I love the different colors and the weights and how smooth they are from the process of being tumbled around on the waves against the shore. I was thinking about, for a while, my family had a home at the end of Chestnut Street, and hence the blue front door. That was the color of our door. And we had this mudroom that was directly off of the kitchen where this activity that I wrote about took place. And then, I would sit in the living room looking out the window across Carver's Pond, and it was just another lifetime ago, and a place that I remember very dearly. This next one is called Daughters of the Sea. As if on cue to nature's call, like a riptide pull, undeniably strong, a feeling of great magnitude that sets their compass path to home. It beckons to their very soul, come back to where you belong. And so, instinctively, they turn around, knowing only that they are homeward bound. The warm granite earth welcomes them with open arms to invite them to spend their final years back in the place where it all began, like water returns to the basin, like salmons swim upstream, like birds returning to their nest. These women come back home to roost. Familiar shores and safe harbors await to soothe the sorrows and help them heal, their strength rebuild, their souls to mend. Their hearts are as wild as the sea roses bloom, untamed and strong on the island's shore, these daughters of the sea. And then there's the drawing that goes with that poem. And then the last one that I'm going to read to you is based on an activity that I would do quite often on the island, which was taking a walk on the many nature preserves that are set aside by the land conservation um, agency on the island, and beautiful, beautiful forests and preserves of saltwater ponds and marshes and all kinds of things to see, wildlife. Spectacular place for bird watching if people are interested in that kind of an activity. But it's just really a beautiful contemplative place. And this one is called A Walk in the Woods. A gift of nature to provide the path through a quiet mossy wood, where footsteps do not make a sound, and for a morning's brief interlude, we can appreciate the deep green hues and the simple beauty found of sunlight through the pines. And there's the picture that goes with it. I hope you enjoyed this reading. Once again, the book is called Island Impressions, Poems of Daily Life by Enriqueta. It is published by Lulu Books, and you can purchase this book. There's 3 copies currently on Amazon, but you can also purchase it directly from the publisher at their bookstore on the web at lulu.com bookstore. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be reaching out with more videos on more of my books as they become available.